tore your ACL and you don't know if you'll ever be able to compete again. Today I'm going to be telling you the story of myself and how I tore my ACL and kind of went through the whole ordeal of seeing, the whole process of what it took, not only physically but mentally as well. So this was around 2014 of my high school wrestling career, and it was in the finals of, I think it was like a national tournament prior to competing at the state level. And our coach was always pretty good about taking us out there and trying to get us exposed to that higher level of competition that is not seen, or tends to not be seen, if you stay within the state bounds of your own state. So, everything was going well. It was probably the best year that I ever had. I was going up and winning and winning and winning back to back to back, and I felt really good. However, I made a crucial mistake coming up to the final competition. That crucial mistake was taking a nap. Now, it's not taking the nap, it was where I took the nap. Now, the biggest factor that played into that, it was the middle of winter. It was in a northern area, not too north, but it was still cold. It was, I think, somewhere, I don't know if it was Colorado or the northern parts of Oklahoma, but it was within a stadium, and the stadium was made of concrete. So I took a nap on this concrete with very minimal clothing around me. So pretty much my knee was touching the cold concrete. And before I realized it, the time came for me to wrestle, and I only had about 10-15 minutes to go up to the actual match to warm up. But what I didn't realize at the time was that the cold concrete had kind of sunk into not only my bones, but my joints as well. So they were cold at the very deepest level. And that 10 to 15 minutes of warm-up time wasn't enough to bring up my tissues to optimal temperature to allow me to compete. So the match begins. He tries to take me down. I tried to plant my leg, and almost like a gunshot type of loud snapping noise, I could hear it in my own ear. And I knew something was wrong. First 30 seconds of the match, had to forfeit. So, there's a lot of things going in your mind as an athlete. The first is you feel like you don't want to be that guy on the team that tends to get hurt all the time. We all have that teammate that just tends to get hurt, complains about everything. I don't know what it is, but there's always that one person, and you feel like you're being that person, but yet at the same time something's not right. So we called off the match, forfeited, go home, deal with the whole issue of shoveling your pride, bearing it and gritting it down and kind of going through. And we get to the hotel, no swelling. In my case, that was very rare. Most of the time, ACL surgery or ACL ruptures will have some sort of tear within them. So, nothing happened. Next day, no bruising or swelling either. So I was like, what the heck? Was I just, faking it? Was I just, being, soft about it? And we didn't really know until we got the proper imaging. So we came back home. And, throughout the time of traveling home, I was feeling a lot of instability in my leg, whether that was moving over to grab something or not. And my father, who is a chiropractor, did a couple great tests on me, did all the orthopedics, and they all really came back normal. So, what the heck, right? We did the anterior drawer test, posterior drawer test, tested for the MCL, did a couple other orthopedics, the whole 9 yards. The chiropractors are trained that way. And we really didn't know much until, we took the x-ray, didn't see any, anything crazy on the x-rays, didn't see anything that would show a hallmark sign of a rupture, because sometimes you could see it on the x-ray. So the next step was the MRI. The MRI came back, and even the radiologist was just like, yeah, it's gone. It was completely ruptured, which was really weird because I had no swelling in the area, no bruising. The only thing I could tell was my knee didn't feel right. It didn't feel stable. And the ACL is one of those ligaments that helps kind of stabilize in weird ranges of motion. So I could squat normally, but as soon as I would cross over kind of like that, I would feel a little bit of that discomfort or instability, and I would almost collapse. So we got the MRI. Next step was figuring out the surgeon, right? But before that, you know, being an athlete, you tend to want to be stubborn about things. So you try to find a brace. You try to figure if you could jerry rig it somehow, find some way to go around the bush and, you know, not be able to get the surgery until you compete at the high level. So we tried competing with it. And as I got to better and better competition, I realized that I couldn't. And then that's the moment where you have to sit back and say, okay, what's the next step? So the next step was finding out what surgeon, what place I was going to get it at. And, you know, you scour the internet for hours, days at a time, trying to find the best option. So it's not an emergency situation with the ACL. So you can do the research. So do the research, find the best person that's near you, the person who's done the most surgeries. Find the person who's got the most under their belt, who has the best recovery times. And you can always ask, too. Some things that you want to ask is, what's your recovery rate? What's your success rate? What is the infection rate of that area? Or of the infection rate of that clinic? And they'll tell you all these things. So you can do all your homework, find the best option, find the best place. So now you found the place, now you found the guy. So we go in, and they offer a couple different things. They have the cadaver graft that you can do. So pretty much they grab an ACL or some sort of similar structure fiber within some part of the body from a cadaver. The second option was the hamstring. So they grab a piece of the semitendinosus, which is the longer one. It's a really long tendon that it has, and then they'll not fuse, but kind of sew together the membranosus and tendinosus to reform your hamstring. And then the third option that I had at the time was the patellar. So kind of going through all of them was the cadaver didn't have the highest acceptance rate. It was still like around 92%, but, you know, let's round that to 90%, you know. It's a 1 in 10 chance that it's going to get rejected in my head. So then that was a no-go for me. The hamstring graft was almost just as successful in the success rate as the patella, but you would lose about 20% of hamstring power in the process. So in my head was, well, is that 20% of power going to cause me to lose a match? Is it going to cause me that last second move, that last second push, that last second twist, to not have enough mobility, range of motion, or power to be able to get out of a certain position and cost me a match? So my choice was to not leave that turn of doubt. So then the final one was the patellar graft. So they grab it from the patellar tendon, and it's a really thick guy. So they go in, they grab it, and they use it. So I'm going into surgery, and I go under, you know, not a clue what's going on when I come up. You know, the whole usual thing. You see those videos of people talking smack, and I'm pretty sure I was talking smack to my dad. In all honesty, I was just, you know, I remember it, and family denies it, but I know I was. You get out, and then you really don't feel much for the first day. So you can't fly anywhere for, I think it was like 2 weeks at the time. So we ended up driving home, and slowly by slowly, you know, the pain starts settling in. But mentally, it wasn't settled in for me yet. It was, you know, you go from driving a Ferrari to all of a sudden being parked in the garage. You know, you still think you're a Ferrari at that point. You still are ready to compete mentally, but it hasn't hit you yet. Your body is out of commission, but, you know, you just lost an axle and you haven't replaced it yet. So the first month was probably the most difficult. I remember the first couple nights waking up in, you know, just a little bit of pain, a little bit of discomfort. And then the second night it got worse. And the third night, you know, I could barely sleep. I think at one point I woke up at, you know, sometime in the middle of the night, 3 or 4 in the morning. You know, you have those nights where you just look up and you see the roof, and you kind of have that moment of, it's real. This is, you know, this is the situation I'm in. And that's when I had my first moment.